Warning. The Christian Patriot Report is a no-holds-barred, unapologetic show that will easily trigger those that get offended by the truth. Viewers and listeners' discretion is advised. And welcome, everyone, to the Christian Patriot Report. I'm your host, Don Gardner, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about a tale of two presidents, because President Biden and President Trump have had some pretty bad weeks. The media wanting Republicans to abandon their stances on abortion, and COVID-19 lockdowns are here in some areas of the country. I love it when a conspiracy theory is proven to be right. All that and more right here on the Christian Patriot Report. You don't want to miss this. Welcome, everyone, to the Christian Patriot Report. I'm your host, Don Gardner. And unlike the Charles Dickens classic, A Tale of Two Cities, which starts, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But for two presidents, it has been really bad. And things are just getting worse for both of them. But let's highlight President Biden, who has been on vacation again because he is the vacationing president. There's a study out there that actually says that he's been on vacation 40% of the time he's been president. Now, I know he's working really hard destroying the economy, so he needs a vacation. But during the time that he was on vacation, a little tragedy was happening in Hawaii. The wildfires were absolutely destroying parts of Hawaii while he was on vacation. And then when he finally got around to visiting the areas that were affected by the wildfires, well, this was the response he got.
Talking to UAW, obviously I'm concerned. I think that there should be a circumstance where the jobs that are being displaced, replaced with new jobs, they should go to first choice should go to the UAW members who had the job, and the salary should be commensurate.
Now I know what you're saying. Why would the citizens of that area boo President Biden? Good question. Probably because while President Biden was on vacation during the wildfire disaster that was happening, he was asked a question, and he gave a simple answer. And this was his answer.
President, any comments on the rising death toll in Maui?
Will you come talk about the Hawaii response, Mr. President?
No comment was what he gave as an answer. Probably didn't go over very well with the citizens that were affected by the wildfires in Hawaii. Then when he finally got there, he told this story.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday, and lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside,
can this president be any more out of touch with reality? And what's worse is that story has been debunked as being a lie. Yet, President Biden will keep telling that lie because he's a serial liar. He can't help himself. That's what they do. But it also is getting worse for President Trump, who had to report to Fulton County Jail for processing. And this is how it went.
Protesters and supporters lined the streets throughout the day leading up to the former president's surrender. Fox 5's Christopher King is live at the Fulton County Jail, where he spoke with people both for and against the former president. Christopher?
That's right, Tom. We've seen supporters of the former president. We've seen critics of the former president. Both sides came out to watch history unfold. Now, protesters both for and against former President Donald Trump braved withering heat and humidity and squeezed into a confined area along the streets outside the Fulton County Jail. Some carried signs blasting the former commander-in-chief. Many more carried signs praising him. Former President Trump faces state racketeering charges in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. DA Fani Willis accuses the former president of heading, quote, a criminal enterprise to try to overturn the vote here in Georgia.
So we know how the citizens of Hawaii treated President Biden when he showed up to their area. Let's see. How did the citizens of Fulton County react when President Trump got there?
Which one are you in, though? Donald Trump. I'm talking about they got everybody.
Free Trump. Sounds like a slogan that should go on a T-shirt, which I'm pretty sure President Trump probably has that in his store, or somebody's making that shirt and making some money off that. Free Trump. Then after getting processed at the Fulton County Jail, President Trump addressed the media.
Thank you very much for being here. I really believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen. If you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. As you know, you have many people that you've been watching over the years do the same thing, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or many others. When you have that great freedom to challenge, you have to be able to, otherwise you're going to have very dishonest elections. What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support, and that goes with the other ones too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning, and this is one instance, but you have three other instances. It's election interference. So I want to thank you for being here. We did nothing wrong at all, and we have every right, every single right, to challenge an election that we think is dishonest, that we think it's very dishonest. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
So there's the tale of two presidents for the past couple weeks. But let's be honest. Have any of you felt like these indictments have nothing of substance in them? That these cases should not even be brought to court because they're so weak? Ask yourself a question. Should President Trump be able to question an election result, much like Democrats like Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, all them who questioned the 2000 election and the 2016 election, they're allowed to question those elections, yet when President Trump does it, he gets indicted. So where's Al Gore's indictment? Where's Hillary Clinton's indictment? Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Only Democrats can commit crimes and get away with it. Republicans can't. And that's the lesson that we're learning. It's no wonder why the approval ratings for Donald Trump are going through the roof. With every single indictment, his poll numbers are just shooting through the roof. Yet guys, have you seen those ads? Well, we can't have Trump win. I'm tired of Trump. Because it was all about Trump. If he wins, he won't be able to beat Joe Biden. Have you seen the approval ratings of Joe Biden, of President Biden? Have you seen it? Those approval ratings should show you that his chances of getting reelected are slim. And that Trump, if he is the nominee, let's face it, he has a very good chance of beating Biden in the election, in the general election. He has a very good chance of beating him because as things are getting worse, people are starting to feel the pain. And I don't know if it's gotten bad enough for the people, but we got another year under President Biden. Things could get a heck of a lot worse. And I know Biden's out there promoting Bidenomics, but let's face it, Bidenomics is destroying the country, and you feel it. You know it. So, if it does come down to Trump versus Biden, who are you going to vote for? The man that's destroying this country in President Biden, or the man that at least built a strong economy before COVID hit? I'm going to take Trump. I don't care how many indictments come. Because every single indictment is showing the American people that we can't trust the system that is out there, that is controlled, when those systems are controlled by Democrats. We can't trust them. Because the sole purpose of these indictments is trying to throw President Biden behind bars, not President Biden, but President Trump behind bars, or to make him ineligible to run for president. We see the game that's going on. And you know what? Keep playing the games. Because Biden's approval rating is going to continue to plummet, just like how the economy is plummeting under his leadership. And with every single indictment, I hope and pray that Trump is able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did nothing wrong. Because honestly, from what I can see from these 4 indictments, he has done nothing wrong. And this might be what wins him the general election in November of 2024. But if by some way they're finally able to get Trump, well, we got DeSantis. We got other candidates that can beat Biden. As much as I hate to say it, Trump is the strongest candidate that we have, but he's not the only strong candidate that can beat Biden. I guarantee you, DeSantis could beat him. Ramaswamy could beat Biden. And that's what the Democrats know. That's why the Democrats are trying to push the same results that happened in at the election of 2020. We'll get into that later on because the COVID lockdowns are coming. My conspiracy theory is turning out to be true because we're seeing right through the Democrat agenda. And with that, we'll be right back after this. Don Gardner from the Christian Patriot Report. We're going to see what team we're going to be. Phillies. Oh, no. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. And you can watch and listen to the Christian Patriot Report at dongardner.weebly.com and Let's Go Mets. Don Gardner from Christian Patriot Report. We're going to try this again and see what team we get. There you go. There you go. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Make sure you listen to the Christian Patriot Report at dongardner.weebly.com. And welcome back, everyone, to the Christian Patriot Report. And have you noticed that the media in this country are doing everything in their power to try to get Republicans to change their stance on abortion? Let's take a look at some pieces that I found, that the media is trying to use these pieces in order to force Republicans to change their stance on abortion. Now, for those of you that don't know, Republicans are supposed to be pro-life and not support abortions. But with these pieces, they're trying to get Republicans to change their stance. Let's take a look at them.
So let's take a look at this piece from The Nation entitled, "Republicans Are Wrong on Abortion, and They Know It." The GOP presidential candidates are trying really hard to confuse voters on abortion, but Americans are not buying it. Let's see what they have to say. When Fox News began the Republican debate on Wednesday night with a video introduction noting that voters have mobilized to protect abortion access in elections since the fall of Roe, they admitted the truth. When it comes to abortion access and our right to control our own bodies, they are on the wrong side of the American people. Let's see what else they got to say. After a few rounds of bickering and infighting, the debate moderators pressed the candidates on their abortion stance. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, and others responded by letting loose every piece of anti-abortion disinformation in the party's arsenal. From pushing falsehoods on abortion later in pregnancy to ignoring the science to justify bans before many people even know they are pregnant, to peddling the lie that most voters support bans. Do you hear that? Do you hear the lies that are in this? Disinformation? That's what they're pushing? See, they would love for the Republican Party to change its stance on abortions and become more like the Democrat Party. That's what they want. That's what they're pushing for. And I thoroughly support the bans. And I think it would be wrong for the Republicans to change their stance on abortion. When the Supreme Court decided to change their stance or rule on Roe v. Wade and turned the authority to decide on the issue of abortion, given that power back to the states, that's what it should be. Their ruling was completely fine. But you notice how much lies or what kind of lies are in this piece from The Nation. And it's not just them. It's also The Hill. Let's look at this piece. Republicans have made it clear no state is safe from abortion bans. Well, that depends. Let's see what else it says. Most Americans believe abortion should be legal in most cases. Really? I don't think so. In every state where voters have voted on the issue since the Supreme Court ruling
Roe v. Wade, voters have sided with reproductive freedoms and against abortion bans. They have it in South Carolina. We just passed a ban on abortions. So the only place where, let's see what they said, in every state where voters had voted on the issue since the Supreme Court, well, many of those states are liberal states. So, of course, the voters in liberal states are going to side with the murdering of unborn children. Of course, they're going to go with that. Just like states that are run by Republicans, many of them have banned abortions. And many of the lies that they want you to believe. They want to say Democrats don't support late-term abortion or support abortions up to the moment of birth. That's exactly what the Democrat Party was pushing. Google it yourself. That's exactly what they wanted. That's exactly what the Democrat Party has been pushing. That's not some Republican lie. That's the truth. That's exactly what they've been doing. So we just took a look at those pieces. They would love for the Republican Party to change their stance on abortions. They would love for us to become more like the Democrat Party, because the Democrat Party, as I said in a previous show, has been seduced by the spirit of Jezebel. This is the same spirit that wants the Republican Party. So, why should Republicans not change their stance on abortion? And where do we as Christians get our stance on abortion? Let's take a look at some Bible verses because, sorry liberals, this, which is the Holy Bible, this is where we get our stance on abortion. Let's take a look at some Bible verses and see what Bible verses supports our stance on abortion. So to further understand the Christian stance on abortion and where it's based and where we get our opinions and our stance on abortion, we get it from the Bible. And here are some Bible verses that help support our stance on abortion. Just take a look, and you can read it yourself. You're watching it. For those of you watching the show, you can read it along with me, and hopefully I read it well for those of you that are listening to the show. So the first verse we're going to go with is Psalms 139, verse 13 and 14. And what it says, and I'm using the modern English version or the MEV, it says, "You brought my inner parts into being. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for you made me with fear and wondering. Marvelous are your works, and you know me completely." That's also where the saying that God knitted you in your mother's womb. This is the verse where it comes from. But it's not just that verse. I mean, this verse says that God knew you before you were even born. But let's take a look at some other ones. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4 through 5. Let's see what that says. "Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I sanctified you and ordained you as a prophet to the nations." This is God. For those of you that may not know or ever read the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah was a prophet in the Old Testament. And he was a young man, and he heard the voice of God say this to him. And we're not going to continue with what ended up happening. Jeremiah tried to say, look, I'm not the one. I can't speak. He basically gave the same excuse that Moses gave God. But in this one, it also says, I formed you in your mother's womb. God formed you in your mother's womb. He knew you before you even born. That's another. This is why God values life, regardless of where that life is. He values all life. But let's see what Exodus chapter 20, verse 13 says. And it's one of the 10 commandments. And it says, you shall not murder. Well, what's abortion? Abortion is murder. It's the killing of an unborn child. It's a killing of a life. And God has value in that, or sees value in that life. So by what does an abortion do? It terminates that life. So every single abortion in America is going against one of the 10 commandments. Because abortion is the murdering of an unborn child. That's what it is. But let's take a look at what some other verses, because, hey, I know some of you are like, hey, I don't like that verse. That verse is offensive. Yeah, well, so is the entire Bible. Because when the Bible, which is the word of God, speaks the truth, for those of you that don't want to accept the truth is offensive to you. It still doesn't change the fact what the truth is. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 and 19. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Let's continue, but we'll get back to the hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked images, feet that are swift in running to mischief, a false witness who speaks lies, and he who sows discord among brethren. Now, let's go back to the hands that shed innocent blood. There's nothing more innocent than an unborn child. That the sole purpose, from the moment that life is conceived, from conception, all that life wants to do is live. And by slaughtering that life through abortions, what you have done is you have your hands, those of you that are the doctors of those abortion clinics, your hands have shed innocent blood. And by shedding that innocent blood, you've gone against what God says. And God's judgment will come. But let's continue. Let's take a look, because there's quite a few of them. And right now my computer's having fun. Let's see if it'll let me. Let's put that down there. Hang on. Let's continue. Matthew chapter 18, verse 12 and through 14. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 on the hills and go search for the one that went astray? As he finds it, truly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than one of the 99, which never went astray. So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Look, I know the Bible. That's talking about people who are already born and they go away from the faith. Maybe. But take a look at the verse. So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Do you think it's God's will that one unborn child should perish through abortions? Do you think God supports such an act? No. That verse should also apply to abortions. That our Father who is God, who is in heaven, that his will is that not one of these little ones, not one of these unborn children should perish. They should be given a chance to live, because that's all they want to do is live. Well, let's take a look at Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. And it says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who exchange darkness for light and light for darkness, who exchange bitterness for sweet and sweet for bitter." Isn't that the argument of those of you that are pro-abortion? It's not evil. It's not bad. You're just fixing a mistake. Well, a child isn't a mistake. Pregnancy isn't a mistake. You chose to engage in that activity, and in the results were you conceived a child. A child didn't make any mistakes. So what pro-abortion activists will try to say is that abortions are good, not evil. Those of us that are pro-life, we see it for what it is. And God says abortions, the shedding of innocent blood, is evil. There's no way you can repay. I don't care if 99% of society thinks that abortions are good. According to God, abortions are not good. They are evil. And I don't care if the society thinks otherwise. I'll stand alongside God because I'm standing for the truth. The truth will never change because his word has never changed. So let's take a look at Genesis chapter 9, verse 6. And it says, "Whoever sheds the blood of man, a man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image." These unborn children are made in the image of God. That's why he values them. That's why he considers them life. That's why those of us that are pro-life, these Christians who are pro-life, we see them not as unborn children, not as fetuses. We see them as life, as human beings. That's what we see. And that's what we're protecting, is human beings and the shedding of innocent blood. But let's take a look at more verses. Psalms chapter 127, verse 3 through 5. Let's see what it says. "Look, children are a gift of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is a reward. As arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is a man who has his quiver full of them. He shall not be ashamed when he speaks with the enemies at the gate." Ultimately, what that verse is saying is that children are a gift from God because they are your legacy. They are the ones that are going to further your name. They are your legacy. And I'm not going to get into it right now, but there's reasons to believe why the devil, Lucifer, loves abortions, because many of the abortions that are going on in this country, the women going through these abortions, that's their first child. And there's something to be said about the firstborn child. There's a reason that the devil is going after your firstborn child. And I can't get into it right now. Maybe in a future show, I might talk about it. But we need to continue, because we have Exodus chapter 21, verse 22 through 25. Let's see what it says. "If men fight and hurt a pregnant woman so that her child is born prematurely, yet there is no serious injury, then he shall be surely punished in accordance with what the man's husband demands of him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is any serious injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and continue. What that verse means is, even though that life, which is in the womb of a child, has yet to be born, if for any reason that life was killed, whether it's an accident or whatever, God still valued that life of the unborn child. And if that child was killed, the result was that person who was responsible for that death was put to death too. Life for life. But ultimately, what you should get out of that verse is how God values life, even those that have yet to be born, of the unborn. They put the same value on their lives as the lives of those who are living, who have been born. It's to God, there's no difference. But let's continue with Job, chapter 31, verse 15. And it says, he says, did not he, and he being God, who made me in the womb, make him? And did not the same one, and the one they're talking about is God, fashion us in the womb? Another verse that supports that God knew you before you were even born. He knew you. He made you. And he made you with a purpose and a destiny. That's why he values your life. And let's continue with Psalms chapter 22, verse 9 through 10. It says, but you are he who took me out of the womb. You caused me to trust while I was on my mother's breasts. And I was cast on you from birth. You are my God from my mother's womb. Another verse that says God had the sole purpose of you being alive is so you could have a relationship with God through his son, Jesus Christ, because he knew you from the moment you were conceived. From the moment a life is conceived, God knows you, and he has given you a purpose and a destiny. And it's that purpose and destiny that we as Christians are supporting and fighting for. And that's one of the many reasons why we're against abortion, and that's why we also see that abortions are murder, the murdering of innocent blood. So those are the Bible verses that support the Christian stance on abortion. And look, when the day comes that the Republican Party decides to abandon this stance on abortion, will be the day that I hope many of us leaders, or should I say followers of Jesus Christ, abandon the Republican Party. Because Republicans, if you get seduced by the spirit of Jezebel, there's nothing we can do for you. That spirit wants to get a hold of you, much like it's gotten a hold of the Democrat Party, and corrupt your party in its stance. Because the spirit of Jezebel wants innocent blood as an offering to her. That's the sole purpose of that spirit. So when the day comes that Republicans and the Republican Party abandon that stance on abortion, you can expect those of us like myself, Christians like myself, to abandon you. And with that, we'll be right back after this. Don Garner from the Christian Patriot Report. We're going to see, what country are we? Oh, heck no. Not under that Prime Minister. No. But make sure you listen to the Christian Patriot Report at dongardner.weebly.com. Don Gardner from the Christian Patriot Report. We're going to see what our favorite car brand is. Way too expensive for me. Sorry, I don't make that kind of money. Welcome back, everyone, to the Christian Patriot Report. The left-wing media and leftists are banging the drums, demanding lockdowns to begin. You remember that conspiracy theory I talked about? Yeah, it's becoming a reality. I mean, I just love it. But conspiracy theories are proven to be true. Plus, they're forcing the same lockdown tactics that they used in 2020. Do you remember me saying that they were going to do this? You remember? I said it a few weeks ago. I wish I was proven wrong, but I was right. Lockdowns, mask mandates, and forced vaccinations are here. They're coming. They're already started. Check this out.
A state-funded university in New Jersey is reportedly forcing students to comply with its strict COVID vaccine mandate or face disenrollment from the school entirely. Rutgers University was the first school in the nation to mandate the vaccine in 2021. And despite the national COVID emergency coming to an end earlier this year, Rutgers is still making students provide proof of immunization for the upcoming semester. Now, some New Jersey lawmakers are calling out the school for not following the science, with Republican Senator Scanlon, saying, quote, "It's baffling to see that from what should be a leading voice of science-based rationality comes arbitrary garbage. We now know for an absolute fact that the COVID vaccine protects no one except the recipient of the vaccine. Broad-based policies like this should only be enacted with the goal of protecting individuals from someone else's action or inaction. It's not the job of Rutgers or Governor Murphy or anyone else to enact a policy to protect me from myself and my own decisions, or from some perceived protection of my own self due to my own decisions." Wow. He said it all, Cheryl. And I'm sorry I mispronounced his name.
Not sure what I'd add to that. Even Rochelle Walensky back in 2021 said, yep, the vaccines aren't going to prevent infection transmission. And look, if you want to go out and get your shots, great, get your shots. But now in the fall, we're learning that the CDC is going to tell us they're going to recommend, not mandate, that we're supposed to get a flu shot, an RSV shot, and a COVID shot. Can we combine that, please? Can somebody figure out how to just make that one needle? Because
how about no shot?
grief, or just nothing. But, you know, look, I'll tell you guys, I did all the boosters. I did all the initial rounds, everything, and I still got COVID a month later after a booster. So, whatever. You know, it's personal choice.
And, of course, President Biden is doing his best to make more money for the vaccine companies by pushing their new vaccines. Check this out.
I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress a request for additional funding for new vaccine that is necessary, that works.
I just have a question, just one little question. Does that mean the old vaccines didn't work? Because you notice he said, we're going to create a new vaccine for this new variant that works. Because the old ones, they don't work. So what makes you think these new vaccines are going to work too? They're not. And you know what? I know. I'm talking about vaccines. I'm talking about COVID. This show's going up on YouTube, the great communists, and they're going to start censoring me with having medical misinformation. Okay. All right, YouTube. I see you. I see what you're trying to play. Let's take a look at some articles and see, where do I get the science for my stance on masks didn't work, vaccines didn't work, these lockdowns didn't work. Let's see where I got that from. So let's take a look at some of these pieces so that YouTube and Google and Facebook won't ban us, so that we're not spreading misinformation or medical misinformation, right, YouTube? Right, Google? Here's a piece from the dailymail.com, a piece entitled Mass Study Published by NIH Suggests N95 COVID Masks May Expose Wearers to Dangerous Level of Toxic Compounds Linked to Seizures and Cancer. Get out of here. No way. The surgical N95 mask has been held up as the gold standard when it comes to protecting against COVID. Yeah, right. But a study quietly reshared by the National Institute of Health in spring suggests the tight-fitting masks may expose users to dangerous levels of toxic chemicals. Researchers from the Jombuk, I'm just going to say it's Jombuk because I probably mispronounced it, but who cares? National Universe in South Korea looked at two types of disposable medical grade masks, as well as several reusable cotton masks, which neither one of them did anything. They didn't do anything. They didn't stop the spread, right? Right, YouTube? You know this. Right, Google? Right, Facebook? You know? Yeah, of course you know. But it's okay. You're going to still spread the fear. Wear the masks. All right, let's see what else it says. The study found that the chemicals released by these masks had 8 times the recommended safety limit in, toxic volatile organic compounds, or TVOCSs. Wow. Let's see what happens if you inhale these. Inhaling those toxic chemicals has been linked to health issues like headaches and nausea. I know when I had to wear one, I got a headache and definitely felt nauseous, but heck, now it's like post-traumatic stress disorder. Anytime I look at one of those masks, I feel like I'm going to throw up. But well, while prolonged and repeated has been linked to organ damage and even cancer. Ooh. Yeah. And I think we all know that the masks don't work. As a matter of fact, they don't work. Even the New York Post says Fauci admits to lack of COVID mask evidence, but wants us to wear them anyway, because it's not. You know why Fauci wants us to wear them? It's in order to strike fear in us as a society, because that's a symbol of wearing a mask is now a symbol of fear. Because you see those. I don't want to go on a tirade, but you see those people who are still wearing them. The pandemic is over. 2020 is over, but you're still wearing it. Anytime you go out in society, you're still wearing it. Geez. Dr. Anthony Fauci flip-flopped once again on masks as a means to tamper down COVID-19, as he admitted that a wide-range study found that face masks made no difference in the course of the pandemic. Well, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. They make it no difference. Of course they didn't. Let's see what else they say. Los Angeles Times, without another pandemic precautions, hospital mask rules didn't stop COVID spread. That's what this study says. That's what they said. In a world moving on from the COVID-19 pandemic, hospitals and medical offices have been the last bastion of mandatory masking. But new research finds that in communities where pandemic precautions have been largely abandoned, mask mandates in healthcare settings do little to prevent COVID virus or coronavirus infections among patients. Should that really shock you? I mean, come on, guys, people, American people. Should that surprise you? I love it when they call us conspiracy theorists and our conspiracy becomes true. I love it when they hit me or hit us with the medical misinformation, yet we were 100% right. Because here's something from reason.com. They have a piece that says, no lockdown Sweden seamlessly tied for lowest all causes mobility in, and that's OECD since COVID arrived. Let's see what this piece has to say. Let's see. COVID lockdowns could have saved lives, but decreasing COVID deaths and also accidentally man, I can't really talk right now. Jeez, my mouth is like broken. But let's try to get through this. Basically, what this piece is saying is Sweden didn't lock down its country. And you can go Google this and go look it up yourself and go read it. What this basically is saying is that Sweden didn't lock down its country. And yet they are tied for the lowest COVID deaths. They didn't do masks. They didn't do lockdowns. They didn't do, forced vaccinations. They didn't do any of this stuff. Yet their country has the lowest, or it's tied to having the lowest COVID deaths in the world. So that should show you lockdowns, wearing masks, forced vaccinations didn't work. So what makes you think it's going to work now? Yeah, YouTube, you could take your censorship and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. Because most of the sources I was using are left-wing media groups. Oh my God! You know the difference between a liberal and a conservative is? Conservatives can remember things. I mean, I remember Dr. Fauci saying, you don't have to wear a mask, to all of a sudden he changed and said, now you got to wear a mask. Then he changed to, now you got to wear 2 masks. How many are there? What else do we got to do? 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks. This is like a really bad Dr. Seuss book. Oh, I'm sorry. We can't talk about Dr. Seuss either because YouTube will censor those. Oh! Now, let's listen to President Trump because he did put out a video talking about the Democrats' plan for locking us down before the 2024 election. That's what I said a couple weeks ago, that they're going to try to turn 2024 election into the 2020 election. And you know what? I'm not the only one saying it. Here's President Trump.
The left-wing lunatics are trying very hard to bring back COVID lockdowns and mandates with all of their sudden fear-mongering about the new variants that are coming. Gee whiz, you know what else is coming? An election. They want to restart the COVID hysteria so they can justify more lockdowns, more censorship, more illegal drop boxes, more mail-in ballots, and trillions of dollars in payoffs to their political allies heading into the 2024 election. Does that sound familiar? These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates. They rigged the 2020 election, and now they're trying to do the same thing all over again by rigging the most important election in the history of our country, the 2024 election, even if it means trying to bring back COVID. But they will fail because we will not let it happen. When I'm back in the White House, I will use every available authority to cut federal funding to any school, college, airline, or public transportation system that imposes a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate. Thank you very much.
Look, I like President Trump. I supported President Trump. But I remember what President Trump did in the year 2020. He locked us down. He locked down the economy. He decided who was essential and who was non-essential personnel. He listened to Dr. Fauci. He pushed these untested vaccines onto the market and onto us, the American people. So I have a tough time believing Donald Trump, President Trump, when he says, I will not let them lock you down. Really? Now, let's listen to another person, another politician running for president of the United States. Let's hear what Governor DeSantis has to say about these lockdowns that are coming in the 2024 election.
We're also going to bring a reckoning about the government's disastrous COVID-19 policies, because those lockdown policies were destructive. The mandates violated people's freedoms. It's caused huge problems in our economy, our labor force. It's driven a lot of people into drug and substance abuse, despair and depression, and yet nobody is taking responsibility for doing any of this. In fact, you're now seeing in certain pockets of the country a move to reimpose things like mask mandates. Like, we know this didn't work, and yet they're trying to do it again. They won't do it in Florida because we banned any type of mandate, so you're not permitted to do it. You have a civil right in the state of Florida to breathe clean air without having a piece of cloth forced on your face. And that's true whether it's your business, whether it's the local government, state government. You make those decisions yourself. But they're trying to do it, and so you're starting to see some of this whipped up. They're trying to do it. I can tell you, when I'm president, we are going to bring a reckoning. That's Fauci, the CDC, NIH, all these organizations. We're going to hold them accountable, because if we don't, they are going to get away with it. They will try to do it again, and we can never let this happen to our country ever again. And with me as president, you won't have to worry about that.
Look, I trust Governor DeSantis more than I trust President Trump. That's just the reality that we're seeing. President Trump doesn't have a good record when it comes to the Democrat agenda for lockdowns, masks, and vaccine mandates. His record is very weak. And the year 2020, President Trump went along with everything the Democrats or Dr. Fauci or whoever you want to blame for this lockdown. He went along with all of it, while Governor DeSantis didn't fall for those lies. He never locked down Florida. He might have made the vaccines available, but he never pushed them. He never made them a mandate. And he definitely never pushed for face masks. He never did any of that stuff. He instead gave the citizens of Florida a choice. You could either get vaccinated or not. It's your choice, and that's how it should be. But the real question is, will you comply with the Democrat agenda of locking us down, forcing the masks on our faces, and will you take the new vaccine? We can see studies where the old vaccine has done more harm than good. And YouTube, Google, and all you social media sites that are lapdogs for the government, you know that to be true. We're seeing studies and more studies of young people collapsing for no reason. Young people having blood issues, blood clot problems. All those things are associated with the COVID vaccine. Look, I wish I was wrong when I said a few weeks ago that these lockdowns are coming. But these lockdowns for many areas in the country are already here. They're in blue states. They're pushing for these lockdowns. They're pushing for these mask mandates. And when when these new vaccines come out, they will push those. Will you comply? Will you go along with this agenda? And I hope the Republicans fight back, because these stages were set for mail-in ballots and for everything that happened in the 2020 election. I know we can't say, look, the Democrats stole the election with the mail-in ballots and all that ballot harvesting. But Republicans, have you really done anything to assure that won't happen in the 2024 election? What are you going to do if the Democrat Party tries to lock us down? Are you going to fight back? Because honestly, some of these Republicans, Lindsey Graham, Senator of South Carolina, have done nothing to prevent the Democrat agenda. Instead, many of you politicians who are Republicans, you simply roll over and let the Democrats rub your belly as long as you get a treat. That's what you do. And that's what we, as American people, we shouldn't put up with those types of politicians who are supposed to fight for us. We need to find replacements for them. So the question will be, what are you going to do? Will you go along with this, or will you fight back? I hope that we, as the American people, fight back against this tyranny, against this injustice. Because it's like that saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. As for me, you're not going to fool me. I'm not going to go along with this stuff. I hope the Republican Party won't either. And with that, we'll be right back after this. Don Gardner from the Christian Patriot Report. We're going to see what country we're going to move to if Biden wins re-election in 2024. Canada. No, I think I'm going to stay in America after this one. But you can listen to the Christian Patriot Report at dongardner.weebly.com. Don Gardner from the Christian Patriot Report. We're going to see what U.S. president are we? Donald Trump. Not a bad choice, but you know what? We would have handled COVID a heck of a lot better than he did. But make sure you listen to the Christian Patriot Report at dongardner.weebly.com. Well, that's our show for today, and I want to thank those of you that take the time to listen to our podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. And the only thing we ask of you is to follow the show wherever you're getting your podcast. And if the podcast site allows you to rate the video, or not rate the video, but rate the episode, or just give us a 5-star review, we'd appreciate that. We also ask if the site also allows you to review the podcast, give us a positive review, and share our content on social media. That's one of the ways that you can help support the show, and we definitely thank you for doing that. And for those of you that take the time to listen to the show, not listen, sorry, it's been a long day. And when you're diving into all this stuff, it's a long day. But for those of you watching the show, thank you for taking the time to watch the show. And you're watching it on our Rumble channel, you're watching it on our BitChute channel, and you're watching it on our YouTube channel. And we just say that if you are watching the show, please subscribe to the show, hit notifications on YouTube, because YouTube likes to not send you notifications. You got to click that little bell. And we also would like for you to share our content, share the show with those that you think would also like it. But you can also go over to our website at dongardner.weebly.com. That's WEEBLY.com. We have a social media page where you can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or now X, follow us on Instagram, follow us on True Social, follow us on Getter. And, of course, you can also subscribe to us and watch us on Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, and TikTok. All you got to do is click on the photos or click on Instagram, and it'll instantly take you over to our page. Just follow or subscribe. And with that, I'm Don Gardner. This has been the Christian Patriot Report. May God bless you. May God bless America. May God make America godly again. May you guys have a good rest of your week. And thank you for taking the time to either listen or watch the show. And see you guys later with another exciting episode of the Christian Patriot Report. Bye-bye, guys.